Hello and welcome to my first video about the Bolt Action Escalation League, which I will be playing at Torchlight, a local game shop that I've frequented for many years now. I did play a little bit in version 2 of Bolt Action, but I didn't play that much, especially considering for how long Bolt Action was around. So I'll be participating in this Escalation League. If you watched prior videos, then you'll know that I do have a relatively large collection of Japanese. I hope to be able to produce more than one style of list, but for this league, I'm mostly interested in pursuing a rifle-heavy, infantry-heavy list. So with that said, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run through the rules for this operation, which I'll be conducting with my opponent over the next couple of weeks, and a little bit of the logic for my list. Now, if I'll flash that up on screen, we can read through it together. So we have Operation 1, King of the Hill, which is active until just a couple weeks from now. This is a hold until relieved victory condition, where we'll be deploying across the long edges of the board. And it looks like we'll be playing on a 4x4 board with a 6-inch deployment zone, so we've got a little bit of running to do to get to the center of the board. And the game length will be variable, which means that it will be difficult to know when to commit my troops to the central objective here. Because at the end of turn 4, we'll check to see if one player controls the objective. If it is in control, then the controlling player rolls a die. On a 6, the game ends. At turn 5, check to see if one player controls the objective. If it is controlled by a player, then that player will roll a die, and on a 5+, the game will end. And so on and so forth until the end of turn 7, in which case absolutely the game will end. So I would expect this game to end on turn 5 or turn 6. But our forces are relatively light, as this is a 400-point list, which I actually don't see. Oh, there we go. So under force composition requirements, we can have up to 3 platoons. To be honest, at 400 points, that seems like a lot of platoons. But here we go. So 1 to 3 platoons. We have a 400-point max and 9 order dice max. Again, that seems like a lot. Those are approximately 40-point squads, right? Things that we cannot include, so prohibited equipment and personnel. We have no artillery, no engineers, no forward artillery or air observers. We have no company commanders, no extra selection rules, so that would be appropriate for Soviet anti-tank rifles, US medium machine guns, presumably my Japanese lunge mines. Also no weapons with a 3 or 4-inch high explosive template, so that rules out the larger howitzers and mortars. We also have no vehicle-mounted flamethrowers, which I think is pretty realistic considering it's 400 points. And then no more than 3 vehicles and no armor higher than a value of 8+. So we're sticking to light tanks and potentially a very heavily armored car as the maximum. Okay, so for this list, I'm thinking I'll bring a lieutenant. Now this lieutenant, you know what, let's check to make sure you can see the lieutenant. I'll be bringing a lieutenant, or an officer rather, along with 2 SMGs. I may ask my opponent if he's okay with me using an SMG on the officer as well. If not, then it'll be a sword and a pistol, as they would have their service pistols. I also have 3 squads of regular infantry, so these are obviously 100 points each. The officer was already 50 points with his 2 extra men, so we'll have 50 points, 100 points, 200 points, 300 points, and for my remaining 50 points, I'll be bringing 2 units of inexperienced mortars, which are 25 points apiece. I've never used inexperienced light mortars, but they are part of the new platoon selection, so we'll be trying that out. And I'm looking forward to it. I think that this is a good opportunity this will be my first run with the new movement trays that I've printed off to see how I feel about it. This is also going to be my first time using squads that have markings on the base to indicate which unit each model belongs to. It feels maybe a little bit redundant with the movement trays, but we'll see how it goes. And the mortars might be a waste of time, considering how short the game is and the dial-in mechanic, which I think we're going to end up doing a how to play Bolt Action series with James and I. So we can go over, if you don't know how that works, we'll go over that later. So yeah, this is the force that I'll be bringing to Torchlight, and I'm looking forward to playing with my opponent, as well as all my future opponents, obviously. And I can't wait to get my Japanese back on the board. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking I might like to repaint the entire army as I get a little bit deeper into the Japanese history. I've been starting to think to myself, maybe I didn't paint models as historically accurate as I might want them to be. But there's really nothing wrong with the paint scheme, and that's one of those things that you know and your opponent doesn't necessarily know, because he hasn't done the research, obviously. But there we are. Let's call it there, and I'll give you some updates after I've had the game. And take it easy. See you in the next one. Cheers.